Hi guys, thanks so much for waiting. I was having some trouble joining. Okay, so could you please turn your cameras on before we start? All right, guys. So today we're going to be looking at the lectures. So remember that we are in the listening section. And last class we have gone through the conversations part of that listening, right? And today we're going to be looking at the lectures. So that's what we're going to be doing. Okay, so I need to say that these are a bit harder, actually. So because, in this case, you will have academic lectures, okay? So it's going to be a bit harder. But let's start with it. Okay, so first of all, does anybody know what a lecture is? Do you guys know what a lecture is? Can anybody tell me? Do you guys know? You haven't heard of this word? Rosario, what do you think?
I think a lecture is when just one person talks about a specific topic and says details about one main topic.
Okay, so yeah, that's correct. Yeah, and that's it. A lecture is basically, one way you could see it is as a class. So for instance, this right now that we're having, this could be considered as a lecture. So it's an explanation of that topic, as Rosario was explaining. So it's when a speaker is talking about a specific topic and obviously elaborating on it, with details and evidence and all the things that you could think of. But in terms of college, we could say that it's a class. So it's an academic class, which obviously would be about academic topics, like psychology sometimes, or sometimes you got some biographies in there, or discussions about debatable topics like the environment or things like that. Now, in this case, you can have two types of lectures. Sometimes you will just have the professor speaking and there will be no students involved. So it would just be the professor. So I gotta say that this one is probably the most difficult one because it's kind of robotic. So it's a bit more, it's a bit harder to understand what they're saying because it's just the professor like reading something. And it has a lot of information, to be honest. And if you're lucky, you will be having the lectures where the professor and the students are discussing something the way that we're doing it right now. So that's a bit more, I don't know, it's a bit more flexible because, the students get to ask some questions and the professor responds. And even the language that they're handling is a bit more informal. So I think that's the easier one. Now, if you're wondering how exactly the structure of the lecture is, I cannot tell you guys what type of structure you will have, but I can tell you a few things that for sure this lecture will have. So first of all, it will have a short introduction, which will last approximately 30 seconds, give it or take, in which the professor will introduce the main topic. Sometimes you get a brief definition of the topic in there, and that's it. So it's something like, hey guys, today we're going to be looking at pollution. And I don't know, the different causes of pollution. And then maybe you have a short definition on the term pollution. And that's it, that's the introduction. And then the professor will basically break this topic down into some subtopics. And here's where it gets a bit harder because your mission here is to identify what those subtopics are. So you may have like tons of different types of lectures. Sometimes you got causes and effect, for instance, like pollution, right? You could say pollution is your topic, and then you have like causes of pollution, and then maybe you have I don't know, you got like CO2, and then you got factories and this and that. Sometimes you will have effects like air contamination or animals dying, whatever. Or sometimes you got like theory and evidence, and the professor will be discussing a certain theory, like Charles Darwin theory of evolution, and then you will have some evidence supporting that theory. Sometimes you have steps of a process, like maybe like a recipe, you know, it could be something, the embryonic development, and then you got the different steps that go into the embryonic development. Sometimes you got comparison, so communism versus capitalism. So I cannot really explain or try to cover all the types of lectures that you can have, but I'm sure that you will, you will figure it out as you listen. So my advice at the beginning, try to pay attention in the intro and try to understand how the professor will structure the lectures, because they usually say it, you know, they go like, so we're going to be looking at pollution and the different causes of pollution. So pay attention to that, because that will tell you a lot about how the structure will be and will help you take better notes and organize them better. And of course, get a better score, you know? So that's my advice. The thing about the lectures is that most of the questions are detailed questions. So if you remember, guys, notes are essential here, because they will be asking about very specific details like names, numbers, and facts, and studies, and all that kind of stuff. So it is important that you take notes on the details. Okay, so the tips are the same. One tip I could give you is pay attention to transition words. They help you big time. So words like first, second, or in addition, furthermore, or now, let's move on to, or for example, those type of words will help you out in understanding the structure. Think like a student. Think like you were a student that's about to take a quiz or a pop quiz on the lecture. So, and try to prioritize and classify the information. So when you're listening, you really want to pay attention to the things that matter the most. So pay attention to how the professor intonates, and you know, the intonation that the professor keeps. If the professor's raising their voice, then that means that that's probably important information. If the professor is sometimes repeating information or like emphasizing on something, then of course that's important as well, and it will probably be in your questions. If the professor asks questions, that's a big thing. Whenever the professor asks a question, careful with that. Take notes on whatever the answer is, because that will probably be in your questions as well. And forget about everything you know. You just have to answer the questions based on the lecture. You know, you don't have to have any previous knowledge or anything to get to answer them. So here are some goals you could have. Identify the topic at the beginning, the first 30 seconds, I would say. Identify if you have any examples, try to catch them. Take notes of key points. And here are some examples of key points, like historical events, dates, concepts. This is a big one. Concepts and definitions. Whenever you hear something like, so, can anybody tell me what this is? The way that I said at the beginning, you know, can anybody tell me what a lecture is? And then somebody defines it. Take notes on any concepts or any definitions that you will find. When you have comparisons, like differences and similarities between things, take notes on that too. Like advantages, disadvantages, take notes on that. If you have a research or a study or an experiment that was made, also, you know, take notes on the steps of the process. If you got any names, any opinions, like this person thought this way, or any theories, any numbers, percentages, predictions. So those are some key points that you really want to draw to. And again, most of the questions will be detailed, which is why your notes are so important. And here are some transition words that you may find, like now. Let's look at, on the other hand, another important. So pay attention to them the way I was saying. And another thing I could tell you, don't forget to not only, listen to them, but also check them out before, right now, whenever you have some time, try to learn by heart all the transitions that you have and also what they mean. So if you have something like in contrast, then that tells you that that's the opposite of something. Or if you have something like as a result, then you know that that's the consequence of something. So not only is it important to pay attention and try to catch them, but also understand why they're using them, so how they connect ideas. So make sure to check out some connectors and transitions. They are really important. Okay, so those are some quick things I could tell you. Any questions so far? All right. Now, if you ask me, I would say that one of the main things or the key things to getting a good score in this part of the listening section is your notes. So the way that you take notes is gonna determine a lot here. So what we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna practice with 1 or 2 examples, and I wanna really draw attention to the way that you're taking notes. So I'm also gonna be taking notes on the lectures, and you guys are gonna be taking pictures of your notes and send them, and you're gonna send it to the group. And I'm also gonna do that so that we can compare and see how we can take notes, based on the lectures. So the same thing I said for the conversations, just use a right amount of space in your paper, and try to structure your notes the same way that the lectures are structured. So you will see what I mean when we get to the example. But this is an example, if you have a historical note or a biography or something about history, then you can draw a timeline, because you got a lot of dates. So this person was born this date. I remember there was this lecture about Sylvia Plath, a poet, and it was really hard, because there were a lot of dates and a lot of events. So if you got something related to history, then maybe you can draw a timeline to help you out. So it really depends, on your lecture. So understanding the structure is then key to taking good notes. Okay, guys, any questions before we get there to the example? Okay. All right. So I'm gonna play this lecture. We're gonna, of course, answer the questions, but we're gonna try to understand how it's structured. We're gonna see this with an example. So this is the one actually I was telling you about, Sylvia Plath. So it had tons of dates and names and those like names of books that she published or names of her parents, I think. So a lot, really. So we're gonna try to listen to it too. Well, let's start with another one. Okay, guys. So you ready to take notes? Do you guys have a piece of paper there? Yeah? Okay. So I will play this lecture. Make sure to take notes. Try to organize them as much as you can. Use the right amount of space. And at the end of the lecture, I'm gonna be asking you some questions about it. So I'm also gonna be taking notes. Let's see it.
Hello, class. So today we're going to be looking at facial recognition and to the different sorts of technology that go into facial recognition. Now, before we start, can any of you tell me where we can see facial recognition in action? Yes, you at the back?
In the TV show Las Vegas?
Well, you're right. In this popular TV show, the security team pull images of the individuals from their surveillance system and run the image through a database to identify the person. In that way, all the card counters and blacklisted gamblers can be escorted from the poker tables. It looks easy on TV, but in the real world, facial recognition is a tricky business. So let's start with the more traditional methods of facial recognition. Every face has peaks and valleys, and these can be translated into what is termed as nodal points. Each face has about 80 of these, and they include distance between the eyes, the length of the jaw, the width of the nose, things like that. These measurements can be used to create a numerical code, and this is called a face print. This system is good because it can compare two-dimensional images such as photographs. The problem is that images have to be controlled. The person has to be staring straight at the camera. There must be no variance in facial expression or lighting because any variance in these parameters reduces the effectiveness of the system. So they had to come up with another way. So the new way of recognizing faces is by using a 3D model. It has better accuracy allegedly. 3D imagery detects distinctive features in the face such as the curves of the eyes, nose, and chin, features which do not change over time. These are measured at the sub-millimeter level. Interestingly, a 3D image can be taken not only from a live scan, but also from a 2D photograph. And another good thing about the 3D system is that it can recognize a person from a range of angles. The person doesn't have to be directly facing the camera as in 2D technology. Once again, the system gives each individual a unique code, a set of numbers that represents the face. It's easy to match a 3D image to another 3D image if you already have a 3D image in your database. It's less easy to match 3D images to 2D images, but what they can do is pull certain measurements from the 3D image, such as the eye and so forth, and use this to convert the 3D image into a 2D image, and this image can be more easily compared to the 2D images in the database. But it's the measurements which can be used to recognize faces. There's also a new development called skin biometrics. This uses the uniqueness of skin texture to get its results. The process takes a picture of a patch of skin, and the system will then identify any pores, lines, moles, blemishes, and other features of skin texture. This method can be used to identify identical twins, something that cannot be done with the 3D technology. Its other advantages over 3D imagery are that it's insensitive to changes in expression, blinking, smiling, and so forth, and can compensate for changes in facial features, such as the growth of a beard or wearing glasses. It's not perfect, though, as it is sensitive to lighting conditions and poor camera resolution, and if there is glare from the sun. So, now we've covered the main types of facial recognition, we'll move on to its uses. Now, has anybody here? Hello, class. So, today we're going...
Okay, so that was it. So, what do you guys think? How are you feeling? How was it? I think it was actually shorter than the conversation that we did last class. But of course, you got a lot more information here, you know? So, okay, this was, I would say, an intermediate one. It wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy as well. So, okay. So what we're going to be doing now is, do you guys think you can send me a picture of your notes through the WhatsApp group that we have? Can you please take a picture of your notes and send it to the group? I'll also do that. Okay, so I just sent my notes. What about yours? Okay, so we got two. We got Rosario's and Irina's as well. Okay, we're gonna check them out. All right, but before we do that, can anybody tell me how the lecture was? I mean, no, first of all, what was the lecture about? What was the main topic?
It's about the facial recognition.
Great, it's about facial recognition. And it's also here, listen to a lecture about facial recognition, okay? But what about facial recognition? I mean, how does the professor organize the information about it? What do we see about facial recognition?
It's a system with a numerical code that recognizes parts of the body
Okay,
on camera.
yes, that's what, okay, so yeah, that's the definition of facial recognition. But how was the lecture in general, like overall structure? I mean, what do we see about facial recognition?
First, he described general information about the main topic, and then he starts specifying the different types of the way that they do facial recognition and the technology that involves each one.
Perfect. Yeah, that's right, Rosario. So yes, you're correct. The beginning, they give like general information about facial recognition, the definition that Juan provided, and then they start talking about the types of facial recognition that we got. So how many types are there? How many of them do we have?
I just don't know 3D, the 2D, and the biometrics or something.
Great, yeah. So yes, exactly. We have three of them, the 2D, 3D, and skin bio. You just said it. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you one more thing. Is there any other, I don't know, division or subdivision that you guys were able to identify? Do you think that there's something else that we could say about the structure of the lecture?
He also mentioned the benefits or I don't know how to say, and the maybe bad things about each type. And I think he also explained the information from the first method to the last one that they could develop.
Okay, great, Rosario. Yeah, exactly. So you got it. They talk about, exactly as you said it, they talk about the benefits of each type and also the bad things or the disadvantages, maybe we could say, or the shortcomings, like the things that each one is missing, the shortcomings of it. So the bright side and the shortcomings that each type have. And as you said, that's something that I actually hadn't thought about. They also, if you think about it, one was created in order to improve the previous one, right? So the 2D technology was created in order to improve and meet, the things that the first one was missing. And the skin biometric, I think, was also created to improve the 2D model, right? So great. Now, that's it, that's what I mean when I say structure of a lecture. And the thing is that if you are able to understand that structure and take notes based on that, then everything's going to be a lot easier for you. So let me check your notes. Let me see. So this is, whose is this? Okay, so this one.
It's mine.
All right. First thing I like. Okay, great. So first thing I like, and I'm seeing is that you're using some symbols like arrows and stuff to help you out. Good. And you also got the numbers, first, second, and third. So great organization. Okay, the first one, the traditional. Yeah. So only thing I would say is maybe, I don't know, I would add something else. Like I would take notes on more things. So for instance, the definition here, facial recognition maybe is missing. And also the characteristics of each one. Like maybe there were more. But if you're able to remember that, these are your notes, and as long as you are able to remember the things that are not written, then we're okay. So, but I like the organization, and that's the main thing that I'm looking at. So good. Now let's look at the second one. Whose is this?
It's mine.
Okay. All right. Good, Irina. So it's also good. You got at the beginning facial recognition, the topic, you got the example in there. You're going to see that we have a question for that. Now, the thing is that the 3 bullet points that you have are not exactly the 3 types, are there? So, so yeah, maybe you're missing a bit of like understanding how it works. So listen to the way they talk, I'm sure they use some transitions as well. Like first, let's look at the first type, the traditional one, and then something like but, or furthermore, there is also the 2D one. And finally, there is the scheme biometrics. So pay attention to those transitions. We're gonna see. Okay. This is mine. We're gonna look at it at the end. And whose is this? Okay. So it's also good. So at the beginning, you have facial recognition. Okay. So it's good. I'm noticing now that I remember every face has valleys. So I think you're trying to kind of write everything that you're hearing, So for instance, if you want to say every face has valleys, I would just maybe take notes on face and valleys, you don't really have to have everything like has or every. So distance between the eyes, you can just draw 2 eyes or just say distance and eyes. So I think this person is trying a bit too hard to write down a transcript, and that's not going to help. Okay, so practice taking notes, and practice taking notes only on keywords. Okay, you don't have to write everything down. You will understand if you just have the most important parts, Now, regarding the structure, we have the 3D model and the scheme biometric one. I think we're missing the 2D one. But what I do like is that you have these big asterisks that are helping me know that those are the subtopics, So that's good. And I think that's it. Anybody else send something? Okay. Now, if we look at mine, the way that you organize it in your paper is up to you. As long as you got something like this, right? 1, 2, 3, and then a bit of explanation. You can also highlight it or circle the subtopics so that they are there. Now, in my case, this is what I did. So at the beginning, I had like the topic in general, a bit of the example. And here, I think I kind of messed up here because the definition, I got it in the 2D part. But I know that that's the general definition. It should have been there, up here. But then I have the 2D. And if you look at the other arrows that I draw, those are for the happy and the sad faces. The happy faces are the good things, and then the sad faces are the shortcomings. And I got like bullet points of each characteristic that each one has. So, it's mostly about that organization. So now we're going to look at the questions, and you will tell me whether you think that, anticipating what is coming next is going to help you or not. Because if at the beginning, you take notes, facial recognition, and then you hear what the professor says, we're going to be listening, or we're going to be seeing the different types of technology that we have. So now you know that you got to draw the types of technology. Then you got the 2D, and then you got something like, so the good thing about this model is, however, the bad thing about this model is, so that told me that I got the advantages, disadvantages. And now I know that it's going to be the same thing for the 3D and the scheme bio. So anticipating how it's going to be will help you taking better notes as well. All right, guys, any questions now before we look at the questions? Okay, so let's try and answer. Here's the first one. Can anybody read it?
Where does the T show Las Vegas take place? A, in a shopping mall, B, in a police department, C, in a casino, D, in a crime lab.
Okay, so look at your notes, or if you remember, what do you think? Which one is it?
I don't remember so well, but I think that is in a casino.
In a casino, okay. Makes sense, you know, because of Las Vegas. Okay. Irina, what do you think?
I don't remember too, but I think that I don't know, in a casino too.
In a casino, okay. And Leandro?
Yeah, I could say that is in a casino also.
Okay, let's go for that one, in a casino. So yes, you guys are correct. If you guessed it, then good guess. It was in a casino indeed. I remember they talk about gamblers and poker tables. So it must have been a casino, you know? I don't remember exactly hearing the word casino, but I do remember hearing the other words like poker tables or gamblers. I don't know if cards or something like that, so casino. Now, here's the second question. Who can read it for us? Maybe Rosario?
Okay. What is a face print? A, a code which identifies a face. B, distinctive curves in the face. C, a 2D image of the face. D, the number of nodal points on the face.
Okay. So remember definitions, you always have them in the question. So what's a face print? And I think this is also something that he asks. I don't know if I'm wrong, maybe I am, but it's a definition anyhow. So always part of your questions. So what do you think? Which one is it?
I think is the D.
D, the number of nodal points. Okay. Juan?
Or maybe C. I don't
Maybe
know. C.
Maybe C. Okay, there's C or D. What's your first instinct? What was your first one?
No, I think is C.
C. Okay,
Yeah.
you're changing your mind. Okay. Juan?
I think that is C.
C2. Okay. Irina?
I think that is the first one or the last one.
A or D? Okay. And which one are you most sure of?
I think that D.
D, the number of nodal points. And what about you, Leandro?
I think that the most complete answer is the first one.
The first one. Okay. Let's go for the first one. So yeah, that was actually correct. A code which identifies face. So yeah, you know, you should have had this in your notes, a definition. I think you're kind of right because but it's like a change of things. First thing, the number of nodal points on the face is translated into a code that identifies a face, and that is a face print. So it's a change of things. You know, first you got the number of nodal points is translated into a code, and the code is a face print. So now regarding C, a 2D image of the face, I think B and C are actually out of context, you know, are different from the other ones. So a 2D image is just a picture, or it could be a drawing, a photo or something, but it's not really a face print, is it? and distinctive curves in the face. I don't know, it could be, but it doesn't really sound that well to me. Now the third one, identify 2 problems with 2D facial recognition from the list below. A, it's not effective if the picture is dark. B, the person in the photograph must face the camera. C, facial curves change over time. D, nodal points cannot be measured. Okay, so that's it. So what are 2 problems with 2D facial recognition? Look at your notes. If you got I don't know, a space for problems with 2D facial recognition, go there and see if you got any of these ones.
I think that is the C
C, okay.
and B.
C and B, all right.
Yes.
Rosario?
I think, teacher, what does it mean, the D option? Nodal points cannot be measured.
Nodal points cannot be measured. Which word? Measure means
Measured.
measure. Okay, measured is medidos. So nodal points no pueden ser medidos. Cannot be measured.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's B and C too.
B and C. Okay. And Juan?
C and D.
C and D. Okay. And Leandro?
I'm sure about B, and I could say that the other is A.
You're sure about D?
Yes. And the
Okay.
other I could say that it's A. It's the first one.
Okay, I think that the most voted one was C. So we're gonna go there. No. Now let's go with D, which was also another one. Okay, no. So which ones were like A and B? Okay. So it's not effective if a picture is dark, lighting, and the person must face the camera. Okay, so it's not about facial curves changing or nodal points being measured. Let me see your notes. Okay, so these are mine, 2D. So in my side of shortcomings, I have controlled face expression, light. So I have the light one, effective light, you need light. Let's look at Rosario's, I want to see. Okay, where is it? Okay, so the first one, okay, we don't really have much info, but yeah, it's not effective if a picture is dark and the person must face the camera. Let's go with the 3D now. Maybe, Juan, could you please read the question?
What is the problem with the 3D technology? It can only be used when the individual is directly facing the camera. And the image might change over time. It's impossible to match a 3D image to a D image. It cannot disgusting between identical twins.
Okay. So what is it? What's the problem with the 3D technology? Irina?
Yes, I think that is the C. C is
See,
the
it's
problem.
possible to match a 3D to a 2D. Okay. Juan?
I think that is C2.
C2. It's impossible to match a 3D. Okay. Rosario?
I think it's C.
C, okay, I think, okay, let's go for C, let's see. Nope, that's not the problem with the 3D one. You wanna guess which one is it? I think the actual one is D. You cannot distinguish between the identical twins. Now, this one was tricky, I gotta admit, because the thing is, I don't remember, I think they mentioned this, not when they were talking about 3D technology, but what they were talking about the skin biometric one. So they were like, so the skin biometric one, the good thing is that it can distinguish between identical twins, which is something that the 3D wasn't able to do. So that's the way that they did it. So kind of pay attention to that. Okay, so let's look at the transcript. Let's see if it's there. So yeah, this method can be used to identify identical twins, something that cannot be done with 3D technology, right? Okay, let's go with the fifth one now. Maybe Leandro, you want to read it?
Okay. Which two elements below can be measured by skin biometric technology? I could say that is the first one. And the last one, A and D.
A and D, okay. The curve of someone's chin and the distance between the eyes. Okay, Rosario?
I think it's B and C.
B and C, the texture and existence of lines. Okay. Juan?
A and B.
A and B. Okay. And Irina?
A and D. I remember that he said something about the texture thing, but I don't remember. So
Okay. Let's go with B and C, an intermediate. So the thing is, even if you don't exactly remember, you know, this is about the skin. The skin biometric technology is supposed to be like measuring things that are related to the skin, you know? So it could be the texture and the existence of lines. I think those two are the ones that are more related to the skin. Now the curve of someone's chin, I think that's something that the 2D identifies, or the 3D, you know, the curve of your chin, the distance between your eyes, the nose, that's the 2D one. The distance between the eyes is also the 2D one. So does it make sense? I think it kind of does, right? A skin biometric one. So it's definitely B, the texture of your skin. And C is also kind of there. So, and let's go with the final one. We have some pictures here. Which of these faces will the skin biometric system be unable to identify? Rosario, what do you think?
I think D.
D, okay. Because of the glasses?
Yes.
Okay. Juan, what are you?
It's A or D.
A or D?
I think that is D.
D, okay. Irina?
I think that is the A, because it's in black and white, and I don't know. I can see
Okay, it makes 12 sense. Yeah. And Leandro?
Yeah, I think that is A.
A. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with A as well. I think I agree with you guys. And here's another thing, another tip. When you're answering the questions, make sure that you're not just answering, like a robot looking at your notes or trying to remember and answer it, but that you're understanding what you're saying, and in general, because if you can help you out, in order to answer this question, if you got this one right, then it can be useful, right now that the things that the skin biometric technology measures are the texture and of the skin and the existence of lines. So you're just going to ask yourself, okay, in which one of these pictures am I not able to see the texture of the skin or the pores or the lines on the face? So I think that's A, right? Because of the light. Even though this girl here is with the glasses on, you're still able to look at the skin, right? At her skin. So I think it makes sense that it's A. The same thing I was looking at here, if you know that one problem with the 2D technology is that, is that the person must be facing the camera, then that's probably not gonna be the problem with the 3D one, right? Because it's allegedly an improvement of the 2D. So try to make sure that you're not just taking notes and answering the questions, but you get the idea of how this works. So what time is it? Okay, so before we go, looking at the script here, let's try to find those indicators or red flags that are gonna tell you how it's structured. Look at this. So let's start with, that's a transition, for the first one. Let's start with the more traditional one. Okay, and then you got the first one. So again, that's so the new way of recognizing faces is by using a 3D model. Okay. And you also got, at the end of the first one, you got a smooth transition, right? Look at this. So they had to come up with another way. So you know that something's gonna come, a new way is coming. So the new way of recognizing faces is, you got the 3D model. Okay. What else? Okay, look at this as well. This system is good, blah, blah. The problem is, that also tells me that it's advantages, disadvantages. This system is good, but the problem is, okay, here, look at this. And another good thing about the 3D system is that, so what else? Look, there's also a new development called skin biometry. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, its other advantages over 3D imagery is, or are, it's not perfect though, though it's sensitive to lighting conditions and poor camera resolution if there is glare from the sun. So lighting, right? That's why this one was the one. So that's, that's why I said at the beginning, try to understand the structure. And if you think about it, most of the questions, what two elements can be measured? Which ones will the skin biometric be unable to identify? Identify two problems. So most of the questions are about that, about the advantages and disadvantages of each type. So it's important that you're able to listen to it. So they say lighting. They say dark. So 3D to 2D, you take notes on that. So it's like a list of things that you're gonna be checking, So that's what I can tell you guys for these lectures. Pay attention to the structure. Is that okay? Any questions? No questions? Okay, guys. So please, I just started today's survey. If you could fill that out before you leave. I think I just got one. Okay, now I got 3 out of 4. All right, now I got 4 out of 4. Okay, guys, so thank you so much. I'll see you all next class.
Thank you, teacher. Bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Take
Bye.
care.